Hello everybody and welcome to my video on Tesla. So in today's video I'm going to show a lot of conviction because I've done a lot of move in my portfolio today. Sold old position, sold some stocks that weren't down nearly as much as Tesla and put it into Tesla. So I'm just going to say it once. This is not investment advice, it's entertainment only. But my conviction in Tesla is extremely strong and these prices are absolutely insane. The stock is so cheap right now, I can't even begin to understand or to explain how cheap it is. So let me show a little conviction in this video. This is going to be a long one, but hopefully I can show you why I'm so bullish on Tesla and explain to you kind of this in an easy way. But okay, first thing, let's get the financials out. The Tesla financials are very exciting. They're as exciting as any growth stock, but really Tesla is much more than just its financials. So I'm just beginning with the financials now. So revenue growth. Elon has said multiple times revenue growth will be about 50% a year going forward. That is what they have achieved in the past, and I believe they can achieve that easily for the next 10 to 15 years. I have no issues imagining that. And why is that? Why can they grow so fast? Well, because they have an unfathomable total addressable market, absolutely mind-boggling. The size of the global market for automobiles is $4 trillion. They sell $4 trillion worth of cars all over the auto industry each year. That is 76 million cars are sold each year. To give you an idea, 4 trillion is the revenue of the US government. That is absolutely an insane amount, okay? And there will be induced demand. As soon as full self-driving happens, which it will happen one day, we don't know when, maybe 1 year, maybe 5 years, but as soon as it will happen, this will automatically grow because people all of a sudden will want cars that they couldn't have before because they didn't want to drive, they couldn't drive, they were too old to drive, so there's going to be induced demand from FSD. Plus that number, the number of cars sold, is going to grow at the pace of the world economy, and the world is getting richer. I know the news is all doom and gloom right now, but emerging nations are emerging out of poverty by the day, and these numbers will grow. That is one of the first things that people want to do when they get well off is they want to buy a car, because buying a car is buying your freedom. So that number will grow, I believe. I know some people say it won't, but I believe it will grow. Okay. They don't spend anything on marketing. They don't spend anything on marketing. Did you know that when you buy, say, a Lexus has about $7,000 worth of ads that you finance per Lexus sold? They don't spend on marketing to make you feel like you have status or anything like that. There is no spend on marketing. This is insane for the mature auto industry that they don't spend on marketing. That's why they have such high margins. Right now, their current run rate is they make about 2 million cars. 2 million cars is what their factories can make. And this keeps growing and keeps growing. And at the 2 million car run rate, which they hit recently, that's only a 2.6% market share. They only sell about 2.6% of all of the cars sold each year. So that is so tiny. That is so tiny. The exponential adoption is ahead of Tesla. It's not behind Tesla. Because I do believe they can get to 50%. I know that sounds insane, but look at what happened to the iPhone. The iPhone, it's how it works. I really believe they could get to that level. So 2.5% of year sales, so early. Not even so early. Insanely early. Let me move on. The debt. They have no debt. They have no debt whatsoever. I mean, they have $7 billion of long-term debt, and they have $26 billion of cash. So the firm is essentially debt-free when you adjust for cash. This is a debt-free company as far as I'm concerned. And when I bring up debt, let's compare it to competition. When I'm going to talk about competition, the competition has respectively $200 billion and $186 billion of debt. $200 billion. Ford has $200 billion of debt. Like, what's going to happen? Are they going to go bankrupt? Is competition going to go bankrupt? Possible. Right? That's the bigger threat. The bigger threat to competition is not Tesla. The bigger threat to competition is itself in the form of debt. Let me move on. What are some of the key metrics? The company has amazing productivity, almost $700,000 per employee in productivity. The gross margin are insane. We make 27% gross margin on a car. That has never been done before. That is absolutely insane. A car is not an MP3 player. It's not something that costs $50, right? It's something that costs 50K, 50,000, and on 50,000 they make 27%. So that is $15,000 on cash per car on average. And they make one car every 15 seconds. So every 15 seconds, $15,000 of cash enters the Tesla Corporation. Is there anything more insane? I mean, I am extremely excited. They are single-handedly redefining what it means to be a big tech company. Like big tech takes a whole new meaning with Tesla. They are just in the early days. They're founder-led, high ownership. Elon, despite insider selling, I know Twitter is all crazy about insider selling, still owns 20%. He still owns 20%. The company is still founder-led. It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, building on what I said about the gross margin, let's just do some back of a napkin, simple sandbag math. 50% growth. So from 2 to 3 million, they'll make actually a little more, but let's be conservative. They'll make 3 million cars in 2023. That's 45 billion of cash in 2023. That's a 12 times price to forward gross margin, gross profit. I dare you to find a company that has something better than that. I mean, you might in a small company, but as innovative as Tesla, that's insane. That's so low. Take it even forward. Look, 50%, 50%, 50%, 50%. So back of a napkin math, 2027, that's almost $230 billion of gross profit. So if you're trading at like twice gross profits from 2027, I mean, sure, we have to wait, but that's insane. And I don't doubt that they will execute on that. Like, I really don't. And that will be for all of the reasons that I will explain later, but I really don't doubt that. And even then, you may say, oh, that's insane. It's crazy. Assuming the size of the car market remains the same, if they sold 15 million cars, that would only be a 19 to 20% market share. And as a reference, Toyota right now, their market share is about 15%. That's because there's like no overwhelmingly great player in the car market right now. And by the way, one of the reasons why Toyota is doing so well is because the Toyota Corolla is kind of like the best selling car in the world, which is the same strategy as Tesla with the Model Y. So just something to think about. It's not crazy to think that Tesla could have a 20% market share. It's actually not that high, actually. I think they could double again after 20%. So, wow. And you know what the worst is about this? Is my little back of a napkin calculation here. Easy, who shows amazing number, does not include perhaps the best things about Tesla. Because it assumes no growth in average sales price. Yet, what have we seen throughout 2021? Sales prices have increased. They recently dropped them in China a little bit, but they've increased throughout 2022. Sorry, I meant 2022. They've increased. With the increase in government subsidies all around the world and with inflation, or at least the perception of inflation, are they going to keep increasing their prices? I believe it's entirely possible. So that doesn't assume any increase in sell prices, and companies raise their prices. Especially in that sector, supply chain, and with the lack of vehicles, they can increase their prices. I assume none of that. I assume no efficiency improvements from things like giga casting. It used to take more than a dozen welded parts to make a car. Now Tesla can just make giant castings and put them together like toy cars. Doesn't assume the efficiency improvements, the margin improvements that are going to get for those. Does it assume 4680? 4680 is going to make the 4680 batteries is going to make the car much cheaper to manufacture and going to allow a much bigger ramping. And that I don't assume any of that. And I don't even count FSD in there, right? Full self-driving. I know some people say it's not going to happen. Well, we'll see. But at least you have expected value for FSD because they have one chance of making it happen, even if it's 1%. That should be reflected in the market value. It's not. Battery storage business, very fast growing business for utilities. Insurance, we'll talk about insurance. So many ancillary services, little side businesses that Tesla have that are not included in my what I call just for fun calculations. So those are heavily sandbagged, heavily low. They're very low. Tesla is going to be doing, I think, so much better than this. And if it were to just do this, that would be an amazing steal right now. Tesla at 175 and 555 billion. People don't realize how large that company could be. That company could be the Apple of cars. Cars are a much bigger market than smartphones. Much bigger. So when Elon said in the last earnings call that he sees the company be worth 5 trillion, that's a 10x from here. Because right now we're at 555 billion. So anyways, let me move on into why I love Tesla so much and why I think Tesla and the rise of Tesla is inevitable. And by the way, I will have forgotten a lot of things in those slides because I had to stop working on those slides and make the video at some point, but I've forgotten a lot of things. But anyways, first of all, let me preface this by saying that I did not like Tesla for a long time. For a long time. 2016, 2017, 2018, I didn't like Tesla. I thought there was no way it would work. I really did. I believe in things like the energy density of oil. But I had no understanding of batteries and how batteries are getting better, exponentially better every year, right? So I thought, oh, you're never gonna get that energy density. How's that possible? I thought charging was going to be an issue. This is like a narrative, and actually you'll find that charging is actually something that Tesla shines on. They have a huge network effect on charging. So then I realized, my resistance to Tesla, I used to not like Tesla, which is like crazy. But my resistance to Tesla is actually very normal. If you look at innovation, people resisted to everything. People resisted to airplanes. They thought airplanes was flying too close to God. They thought it was a sin. They thought they would never get, on an airplane. They hated airplanes in the early days. Go back in the 1903, like read stuff about 1904 and late 1903 when the airplane first took off. Electricity before. People hated electricity. I mean, literally there were campaigns against electricity throughout America. The printing press, go back to the 1500s. You had like a third of the population resisted the printing press. The clergy was so anti-printing press. But more recently, go back to the 50s with big box stores. People resisted those. Internet. How many people have said that the internet is just a fad? Wall Street Journal in 1997 said the internet is a fad. In 98, a famous economist said the internet was a fad. Computers. I remember reading, no, I didn't read, but I read them now, old articles from like the 1980s showing why would you buy the computer to look at stocks? You can just look at stocks at the newspaper. They were saying just take the newspaper and look at stocks on the newspaper. Even steel, like this is the most fascinating one. When steel first came out and we started having like tall buildings or like bridges, people wouldn't trust steel. Like there were people, when they built the first bridge across the Mississippi River, they had to have an elephant come so that people would trust that the bridge would not collapse, because people did not believe in steel. They thought steel was not the future. And they had to have an elephant to convince people. So this may seem off topic, but it's really not, because the revolution that we have right now with Tesla and the rejection of Tesla by most of the mainstream Wall Street analysts, that rejection is still very alive. It is very akin to all of the revolutions that we've had. And building with steel is so much better than building with wood. Electricity is so much better than the oil lamp. Airplanes are much better than trains. Like we have so many examples. Internet is much better than big box stores. So we could go on, but people have resisted change forever, and this is the fact that I've myself resisted Tesla, and the fact that I think a lot of people are still resisting Tesla is a sign that we're onto the right thing looking at Tesla. I really believe so. So let me now start with 20 plus reasons why I believe that Tesla and electric cars are inevitable. And Tesla, my thesis is still the same, about 50%, same as iPhone. I don't know if it's going to be 2030 or 2035, but I think they'll be as prominent as iPhones. So first of all, did you know there is a large share of the population around the world who absolutely hate going to gas stations? My significant other, she can't stand going to a gas station. There's no way, she can't stand it. So many people hate going to a gas station. I think this is not emphasized enough in Tesla research and in Tesla YouTube. This is not emphasized enough. People hate going to the gas station. If you have a Tesla, you're done with the gas stations forever. So if you happen to have no issues with gas stations, maybe ask around you and see if you have friends or family that hate going to the gas station. I bet you'll find a lot of people who really hate going to gas stations. This is a big selling point for Teslas and electric vehicles. Point number 2. You can look at my former video on Tesla. I made the calculations for where I'm at, Texas. In Texas, gasoline is very cheap here. And thus, the numbers are not too flattering for Tesla because it's only 6 times cheaper to power a Tesla here. But do the calculations for other states. Do the calculations for California. Do the calculations from New York. Do the calculations for other countries. You very likely get to 10x cheaper. So here, a Tesla, the average charge for a Tesla is like $7 to $8. And that compares to like 40 for gas. But you got to ask yourself, how much does it cost you to fill up where you're at? And it's very likely a 10x improvement. So, and this is from Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel's famous book, Zero-to-One. Peter Thiel was the associate of Elon Musk, right? They call it the PayPal group, mafia gang, whatever they call it. But the concept of Peter Thiel is what? Once a product is one order of magnitude better than the alternative, there is just no way that that product is not going to end up winning, is not going to end up even being a monopoly. Like when something is 10 times cheaper, it doesn't matter how much you hate it. It doesn't matter how much you hate the look, how much you hate the founder, how much you hate the technology, how much you love, say, traditional cars. That doesn't matter because the product is one order of magnitude, i.e. 10x better. And Tesla is 10x better on the cost. Mile for mile is 10x better just for that. So just buying a Tesla, the average family, the numbers are insane. I think the average family saves $67,000 by switching to a Tesla. But that doesn't include any of the other benefits. So I actually argue that Tesla could be seen as 2 orders of magnitude better when you include, so 100 times better than the current autos. So then it's a product that's going to be, crushing the competition. That's why Teslas don't need to advertise. They sell themselves. They're so much better. To give you an analogy, why don't we go to the library anymore? Because we have Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is free, and Wikipedia is better, right? Why don't we send mail anymore across the country? Because we have email, and email's free, and email's better. Teslas are not free, of course, but they are way cheaper than gas cars. So again, picture yourself, would you enjoy having a $6 or $7 electric bill charge, per charge, as opposed to 40, 50, 60 bucks for a tank? Would you prefer to pay $7 or would you prefer to pay 60 bucks for a full charge? And most people are going to prefer to pay $6, and that's why on that alone, I think it's a winning product. But that is an analogy you can make for all electric makers. I mean, to an extent, right? All electric makers benefit from that, but nonetheless, I'll get to the competition later and what it means. But nonetheless, this is like a huge selling point. So, never visit a gas station. Much cheaper. Let me move on. Okay. Now, Why else? Why else are Tesla cars inevitable? And I'll go through all of the reasons. 1 million miles! Exclamation mark. Look it up. So search online for people who bought Teslas 8 years ago. You'll see how many people still have their Teslas with 1 million miles on it, or to a lesser extent, 1 million kilometers. Like, look it up. It's insane. Like, it's insane. Like, you don't get that in the ice world. The ice cars do not last 1 million miles. I'm not saying all Teslas will last 1 million miles, but I'm saying these cars are so much longer lasting than all of the other cars. So think about what it means. Well, for a household, you may have the car for you for like 8 years, and then if it still runs, you may give it to your children, you know, or your parents. Think about fleet. Fleets may keep their car much longer. The fact that the length of a Tesla can be up to 5 times, right? They can last up to 5 times longer. That is a huge selling point. A huge selling point. That's my point number 2 on Tesla. Point number 3, the company was founded on an idea of disruption. Elon Musk is a disruptor. Look at the early days of PayPal and the history of PayPal. Look at SpaceX, which he started before Tesla. If you're interested in that, and you know, I have to like know Tesla really well because it is becoming an alarmingly big position in my portfolio, so I really want to do the research. I recommend this book, Tim Egan's Power Play on Tesla. You learn a lot about how Tesla works, you know. What was the early days of Tesla? Like, for example, Tesla's early days was about developing a 3,000-mile vehicle that could ride from San Francisco to New York in a single charge. Their early days was all about riding the battery cost curve of batteries. That's why Tesla batteries do not use pouch. I mean, may I tell you that the competition right now, a lot of competition wants to use pouch-based batteries, you know, like you would have for your car battery. Teslas don't use pouch. They use batteries that are extremely similar to laptop batteries. So they rode the cost curve decline of computing. And they use those batteries in computing in the early Teslas. It's all about attaching yourself to another cost curve, which is what Tesla has done, which is why Tesla's batteries work very different. Then the business model, a universal car for the whole world. That is the overarching model of Tesla. That's why the Model Y, frankly, is the business going forward. Most people are not going to buy Model 3s or S or X. I guess the Model 3 a few people are going to buy. But eventually, I think the Model Y will be the main model. It's very Apple-esque, isn't it? You know, some people joke, say Apple is the iPhone company. Is Tesla going to be the Model Y company? Well, I do believe it's going to be the main selling car. They created a consensus car for the whole world. The reason why Toyota was so successful is because they created the Toyota Corolla, which was like the most consensus car for the whole planet. Look at the Model Y. That's what Tesla did. It is the Apple iPhone of cars. Okay. Also, everything is made in house. Everything is made in house with Tesla because so that's fully integrated. The business is fully integrated like Apple, and they're thinking about mining lithium now, which is like very interesting. Why is that? Because suppliers wouldn't allow them to buy. You know, they had contracts that are like, oh, you're too small, don't bother with us. Read this book if you're interested in Tesla. I highly recommend it. So many things going for Tesla as to how they design, how they show a timeless design. You know, Elon Musk arrives in the design office with a picture of a woman and says the car needs to look like her. Like, that's how they design a universal car. That's why the cars look like they do. I mean, it's really good. So I really recommend, to understand into the mind of Elon Musk and how that business works, you need to have a lot of depth. And I think this is one of the good resources. All right, let me move on. Software. Elon Musk is a software guy. Look at SpaceX rocket. They land on their own. That's software. Look at look at PayPal. PayPal is software. He sees Tesla as a software play. Simple as that. You know, the idea of using laptop batteries to build the Tesla, that's a very, very different idea. The idea of removing as much hardware as possible and doing everything through software, it's all about software. There's lots of things I could say about software. There's lots of good things going on for Tesla software and the operating system of the car, which is, by the way it's headed. Like there's going to be the Tesla operating system for cars, and then there's going to be another operating system. Whether it's Apple CarPlay or Nvidia or Google, I don't know. But I sure know that Tesla is going to be the one operating system for cars. And the big thing in there is full self-driving. So people say, oh, it's ridiculous. Like, oh, you're not going to buy full self-driving. It's $20,000. Well, it will be. I think it's it's $15,000 right now for FSD. They'll increase it most likely to 20K for an upfront count to get FSD. But here's the thing: once FSD is good, one full self-driving is approved by regulator, one of the more likely ways that they'll charge for it is a monthly rent. They'll be like, okay, well, you can get the software for say $300 a month. And think about that. Think about how exponential that is. All of a sudden, you can offer FSDs on millions of cars and ask people to turn their car into a full self-driving car for $300 a month. Exponential. Exponential, absolutely insane. And add to that the fact that they can do sales, they can do free trials. It's like the transportation as a service or the software driving software as a service idea is a real idea. It's not represented at all in the Tesla business right now. But our people who have cars, if they want to have FSD, are they going to pay $300 a month to get FSD on their car because they don't want to drive anymore, or because they want the car to simply because they want the car to simply drive, I don't know, their children to work, pick up someone for them at the airport, drop you off at the airport, and drive itself back home. Like, how is that going to be? What are people going to pay, right? I have little doubt they could pay $300 a month. I don't see why not. Okay, FSD is a big deal. Let me move on. There are very few repairs on a Tesla. And in fact, most of the repairs on a Tesla right now, they're problematic. And trust me, if you search it, you'll find thousands of articles about how awful it is. But it's not awful, because the odds of repairs, or at least costly repairs or big repairs happening to your Teslas are very small, because Teslas have up to 100 times fewer parts, right? And on average, it may be 15 to 20 times fewer parts than in a regular internal combustion engine cars. So you get your 10x improvement in the number of parts when you get a Tesla. So read, Tire Hungry, this is a car specialist. Read the car specialist and what they have to say. This is the end of costly car repairs. Teslas are very few moving parts. It's a big deal. It plays again in the 0-to-1 move, in the 10x cheaper move. Could be 100x cheaper, right? Because they have very few moving parts. One of the reasons, too, why Tesla is doing so well with very few moving parts is the same reason why solar, for example, is much more superior to wind. So I just wanted to quickly talk about solar. Why is solar much superior to wind? Because also solar has no moving parts. There's no moving parts in solar. So when you have no moving parts, or very few moving parts, you are going to have a much longer lasting product. This is a basic engineering concept. But that's why I believe solar, just like electric cars, are the future, because they have fewer moving parts and they are longer lasting. And I wanted to do an aside really quickly talking about solar, which is of course part of a grand plan of Tesla. And why I think solar is linked to electric cars, which is where do you charge your electric car most of the time? Most of the time, you're going to charge your electric car at home. And you're likely going to charge it with solar on your house. That is the long-term vision, 10 to 15 years from now. So actually, driving your Tesla may very well be free. You're going to have free, abundant energy. And again, I suggest and this is, you got to be very careful with solar right now because installers make a lot of money still because there's still very little knowledge about solar. But I suggest if you're a little techie oriented, I suggest you go look at the price per watt on solar panels, go look at the price of inverters, and do the math on your home to see how much it would cost just for the parts of solar without installer cost. I did the math on my house. I have a 5-bedroom house, bigger house. I did the math. It's about $9,000 to power my whole home with solar energy if I were to do the work myself. So of course, most people are going to use installers. I realize that. But new homes are getting built today with solar built in. Installer costs will go down like as soon as those government subsidies stop. Installer costs will go down. But think about it. So $9,000. That's so inexpensive. $9,000. And if you double the solar on your home, which by the way, with the efficiency of solar panels today, most homes have enough roof regardless of where you live. I suggest you look at Tony Seba on this. Tony Seba is the best on this. Regardless of where you live, even if you live in Alaska, the odds are with modern solar panels, very highly efficient solar panels, you have enough roof space to power your home and also to power a charge for your electric vehicle. And it's about a double. So for $18,000, in the case of my house, I could power both my entire electric needs and a daily charge of the electric vehicle. A daily charge of the electric vehicle and my entire electric needs for $18,000 in parts. Of course, an installer would charge you 50 or 60 because installers are in high demand and they have insane margins. And then you got to add permit costs and all of that. But still, that shows you how inevitable this is. Solar energy is inevitable. And I think it's one of the other revolutions, which, by the way, I love Enphase. For that reason, I'm invested in Enphase. I think Enphase is one of the big plays in that field. But that's why they go hand in hand. That's why in the early days of Tesla, if you look at the early documents of Tesla, Elon Musk talks a lot about SolarCity and how SolarCity, how batteries go hand in hand with Tesla. That's also why Elon Musk works a lot on the virtual virtual grid, where homes give power to each other. So again, amazing progress. One thing I'll finish is the reason why we're seeing this progress in solar, which again is an opportunity for Tesla, not right now, but it's an opportunity for Tesla 10 years from now, is that the cost curves, right, on chip making is feeding into the cost curve of solar panels. I.e., we make microprocessor and chips. We make them with silicon, and what do we make? Photovoltaic cells with silicon as well. So our knowledge in the manufacturing of silicon for chips is getting transferred to our knowledge of manufacturing of solar panels. So that's why we've seen this exponential growth in solar energy, and that's why they are linked. They are linked. So this is more of an aside, but again, charging at home, it's very likely that down the road you'll charge at home with electricity straight from your roof, and then it's 100% free. All right, let me move on. Let's talk about chargers. So this is what Wall Street really likes to point out where ICE car makers really like to point out is that really there's a charger problem and we have charger issues. Well, first of all, I suggest you subscribe to Twitter's Supercharger Twitter account. To Tesla's Supercharger Twitter account, and you'll see how many superchargers are getting installed everywhere. There's superchargers just about everywhere. But more importantly, superchargers are not an issue. If you go back to what I was saying, which is people don't like to go to the gas stations, and most people are going to charge at home. Most people are going to charge at their apartment building or at their home. So really, it's only an issue for long trips. And for long trips, well, there's a very large network. So there's an exponential growth in the number of chargers everywhere. That's point number one. But then The newer models charge 200 miles in 15 minutes. And actually, if you read about Tesla, they're kind of changing the power structure or the intensity of the batteries to make it so that Teslas will charge faster. Like as newer Tesla come in, they'll be able to use higher kilowattage chargers, which will make Teslas charge even faster. Another thing that they do about Teslas is they are going to try to put convenience stores and Tesla stores and even restaurants at those superchargers, which really most people are going to need on the highway for long trips. So that's another side business of Tesla. Is they, just like IKEA as a side food business where people go to IKEA just eat food there, Tesla could have a side restaurant business next to its superchargers. Elon also mentioned that the superchargers may be solar panel powered. So you could imagine a building structure where the solar panels are part of the roof. Anyways, there's a lot of innovation that can happen. And eventually, like I said, manufacturing is getting better. Cost of batteries is getting better. And what I will say is that Elon already stated that they're battery constrained. So right now, the cars have maximum 400 miles range. But he already stated that it would be more than feasible to do a 600-mile range. So 600-mile range, you're getting bigger than most gas cars. Most gas cars don't do 600 miles. And eventually, because of the exponentiality, we may get someday to I'm not saying it will be standard, maybe an option, but I don't see a reason why, as exponentiality kicks in, why we don't have a 1,000-mile car or even a 1,500-mile car. And so if you had a 1,500-mile range car, would this really be a problem? Would charging really be a problem? And of course, the answer is no. And remember the early day challenge of Tesla, what founded Tesla, when Tesla was founded, the book I recommended earlier, was the 3,000-mile challenge. I have a car that drives between San Francisco and New York. So big deal here. All right, let me move on. Most car buyers buy cars because they love performance. They are sports people. They like sports cars. They like cars that go fast. Well, guess what is the best bang for your buck when it comes to speed and when it comes to acceleration? You guessed it, Teslas. Even the least expensive Teslas have absolutely insane handleability, acceleration. I suggest you drive one. I have a friend that has a Tesla. Unfortunately, I love stocks better than cars, so I put my money in stocks. But whenever I see that friend, I just want to take their Tesla for a drive, and I drive all the time. And I'm the one driving the Tesla if I'm hanging out with them. Because if you drive one, you I mean the performance, and I know some people may be used to like a super sporty car, and thus you don't see the difference. But if you're used to a regular car, you will see an insane difference. So sports people, there's a built-in demand for electric cars by sports people, by people that are into sports car, because it's just a better technology. And we won't talk about trucks, but there's also a lot of advantages of having electric with trucks, right? You have instant torque. There's these pictures of semi on a road going up. I mean, it's just electric is just superior technology. It is a superior technology, period. So that's why I think performance-oriented folks will go ahead and just buy Teslas. Moving on, models. So a lot of credit agencies, and I guess they still have a say despite the mortgage crisis and their whole AAA bond and the whole crash of '08. They still have a say, which is crazy. But they criticize Tesla because they say Tesla does not have enough models. Well, guess what? Tesla is not going for models. They're going for the Toyota Corolla model, where they have one car which really fits the most people around the world. They have one truck which really is going to fit most people around the world. And they have one semi that really fits most people around the world. And by having one of each vehicle, that is how you maximize scale, That is how you maximize efficiency. That is how you can develop improvements to your product that will really, really scale and really, really need to insane margin. And of course, Tesla is taking it to new heights, right? For example, the Cybertruck doesn't have paint. There's no paint, right? So there's lots of good things going on for Tesla. And I really like the idea that they just focus on a few models and just don't have thousands of different models. Some design choices of Tesla may be polarizing. You may remember the Cybertruck, people criticizing it. But again, many people buy products for other reason than looks. I hate to say it, but minivans, I'm not sure a lot of people buy minivans because they think they look good. I personally think Teslas look great, but some people think they look ugly, but that doesn't mean they're not going to buy one because of the economics, because of the numbers, because of everything I talked about, because of the money it saves you. Another big deal, government incentives. Tesla doesn't need them. They've said that multiple times. We don't need them. Spend money elsewhere. But guess what? They still got one. Major incentive in the Inflation Reduction Act starts in January 2023. It's I can't remember how much it is, but I think it's like $7,000 per car in a tax credit if you buy a car in the US. Plus, they have obviously the battery credit for batteries that are made in the US. So Tesla is once again going to make a lot of money from government credits, and I do not understand why they passed this bill. Adoption was going to happen anyways because of the exponentiality and how much better this product is. But it's just, I mean, it's just gravy for Tesla. It's amazing. It's just extra icing on the cake. That's what it is. What can I say? And how many governments right now are passing incentives around the world? All over. Still today, very few governments are removing these incentives. So I think governments are making big mistakes by doing that because these cars sell on their own. They really do. Okay, let me move on. The brand may seem odd. Why would I talk about the brand of Tesla? Well, I'll talk about the brand of Tesla. Tesla has a brand. Branding has always been so important in the car world. You know, oh, you have Ford truck drivers and you have GMC truck drivers, and they kind of, you know, have a feud with each other. Oh, Ford's a truck. Oh, GMC's a truck. Brands is so important to the car buyer. Car buyers, you know, it's where you pull up to the restaurant. You pull up to your work in your car. So your car branding is important because it's going to tell things about you to other people, right? Why do realtors always have flamboyant car, right? Because they want to show they're successful. So brand is important for Tesla, even though it's the weakest type of moat you could have, for sure. But it's important. And I will make this claim that popular culture, Gen Z and Millennials, consider it the best brand. That's what popular culture is today. Popular culture today, look at it. Look at toys for kids. Look at video games. Look at t-shirts everywhere, sold online or else. Look on the internet. Look at memes. Memes are a good way to gauge popular culture. Popular culture is putting Tesla as the company that is the cool company, the cool brand, you know. And when I compare Tesla to other brands like Mercedes, like for example, Mercedes has like a marketing sponsored stadium in Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a very nice stadium, but you know, I don't think the future of entertainment is in stadiums. The future of entertainment is in video games. And look at video games. Look at all of the Tencent video games. Look at the place that Tesla has in there. That Tesla doesn't even have to pay for. Popular culture is headed in one direction, and Tesla is headed with that direction. The cars that were cool in the past, like Mercedes or Cadillac, are not cool anymore for today's car buyer, or at least the new car buyer, because remember, this is about new growth. Tesla is about new growth. You know, it's about the new population coming in, right? People who need that equipment. The new car buyer thinks Teslas are cool. I really believe that. I mean, you may disagree with me, but the brand for Tesla is very strong. Insurance. Oh, this is another big one, another big business that is not discussed enough. So the question is, remember what I told you about cars don't break down as much, and especially cars are going to be self-driving. So if you have a self-driving car that's less likely to braking, as an owner of that car, you should expect lower insurance. And for a bunch of reasons, it's not going to happen. I don't think insurers are going to give Tesla owners discounts. I'm talking about major discounts, by the way. I'm not talking about 5% off. I'm talking about half off or 70% off. That's just not going to happen. So Tesla is working on embedding insurance within the Tesla value proposition. So imagine that you could have your by the way, bunch of Tesla buyers pay cash for their Teslas. That's also one other thing that I don't put in there, but there's so many cash buyers of Tesla. Like some type of people who buy Tesla, they're cash buyers. Forgetting about the lack or the presence of a monthly payment, you can really see a future where Tesla would have full self-driving and insurance charged as a monthly package only once. And not just that, right? You could have high-speed internet with the satellite Starlinks. So you could have high-speed internet, insurance, and full self-driving, and perhaps a whole bunch of games on the Tesla, and perhaps entertainment, right? There's major entertainment in Tesla because they're going to drive themselves. What are you going to do? Well, you may walk in your Tesla, but you're likely to watch TV or play games like we do on airplanes. So all of that you could see 5 years from now having like a bundle where you have a Tesla bundle that just includes everything you may need for your Tesla. Again, that's lateral thinking. That's a chess move. That's amazing strategy. And when you start thinking about Teslas in the context of entertainment, start thinking about satellites, well, perhaps the purchase of Twitter doesn't seem as much of a drawback as it may initially seem. So anyways, insurance is a big one, and then entertainment is another big one. So entertainment, whether paid for in the form of a monthly payment, maybe bundled with insurance, maybe bundled with self-driving capability, or maybe on its own. Entertainment in the cars is a big deal. Some people say there could be advertising in the future in the car. I mean, why not? But I don't necessarily think that's going to be the way that Tesla goes. But there's a lot of opportunities because think about it, you have people with captive screens, just like in the airplane, you're kind of captive to whatever the flight attendants try to sell to you. The same is true when you're driving a Tesla. You're going to have a screen in front of you. You're going to be a captive audience. So if you want to watch Netflix, maybe Elon takes a cut of that because there's lots of opportunities in there, which are very difficult to price in, but that are nonetheless there. And insurance is necessary because I think there will be a pool of Tesla insurance drivers that will get together and the prices will be lower because there's no, I mean, again, these cars break down less and with full self-driving, there will be way less accidents. All right, let's talk about the big deal. Competition. I am tired about hearing about competition. Everybody talks about competition. That's all people have been talking about for about 3 years. They've been looking at Tesla for 3 years. People have been talking about competition for Tesla for 3 years. So let's talk about China because the real competition is really coming from China. Is there a demand problem in China? Well, maybe. I don't know if you've ever been to China, but I have. Chinese people are very patriotic. If you go to China, Chinese people love their country. I mean, they have giant flags. The only place I've seen flags as big as in America was in China. They love their brands. They love their national brand. So the Chinese people, Chinese people are going to do what they want to do, and they're likely to buy Chinese brands because they're very patriotic people. They like their brands, but they still buy iPhones, for example. So I think there's going to be a market for Tesla in China, but it may not be as monopolistic or as huge as it's going to be in the rest of the world. But that's fine because Shanghai is an export hub. What did we see 3 days ago? They shipped thousands of vehicles to Israel from China. So China is an export hub. That's what it is, and that's what China has been for so many brands. There is no problem for China being an export hub for, say, the rest of Asia Australia, New Zealand, and Europe. There is no problem for that. I don't know why people think there is such a problem for that. It's like China is the manufacturer of the world. Teslas are consumer electronic items. They're consumer electronics. And most consumer electronics are made in China. It just makes sense for China. I mean, there's going to be factories in the US, but it just makes sense that China is making a lot of those. They're not appliances like cars. That's right. Cars are appliances. If you really think about it deeply, a car is an appliance. A Tesla is a consumer electronic item. So it makes sense that it's going to be made in China, I believe, at least for markets that are not Europe and North America, at least for the foreseeable future. And we don't know what's going to happen with China. I mean, China could be a risk if they invade Taiwan and all of that, but again, it's not it's I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think it's going to be that bad. So furthermore, I believe Chinese EVs will be the main competition to Tesla. They will be the main competition to Tesla because they have great balance sheets, and they're coming. And the cars are decent, and they've been doing electric cars for longer than Europe and the US. And I suggest you look at the cars that BYD is selling in Europe. They're decent cars, they're not that expensive. There will always be a less than premium market, right? So it's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I think Chinese EVs will be big, and Teslas will be big, and I think it will very much look like another expensive consumer electronic item. Actually, the third most expensive for the second most expensive electronic item for most people, which is the smartphone, right? Number one consumer electronic item, the car. Number two most expensive electronic item, the smartphone. And let's look at the smartphone. Don't forget, Apple, I think, is a model. So you have Apple in the smartphone business. Apple is premium, like Tesla is premium. Apple is American, like Tesla is American. And Apple has full integration between hardware and software, like Tesla. Tesla is following the Apple playbook. And look at the rest of the auto market, which I really think is how it's going to happen. The rest, it's going to be mostly Chinese cars, but for phones, there's some Korean-built phones. So you're going to have Chinese and Korean phones for phones, and American software. And the software and the phone are a little bit disjointed. So the question is, who is going to be the software for a car? Like, if there's going to be Tesla that are fully integrated, but is it going to be NVIDIA that runs the software of non-Tesla cars? Is it going to be Google that runs that software? Is it going to be Apple even that runs the software, the self-driving software for non-Tesla cars? I don't know who it's going to be, but Volkswagen said it was going to be them, and their software efforts are not doing too well. So I don't know who's going to run the software of Chinese-made cars. This is a mystery. And again, it makes sense in phones. That's how it's been done in phones. And I think it will make sense, at least for the next few years, it will make sense for cars too. It's like China is great at manufacturing steel, and the US is the best in the world when it comes to software. So I think it's a good match for now. I realize I may not be, I may be, I may be one of the few things that's still a good match, but I think it's a good match for now. You may say, I didn't talk about competition from traditional automakers. And you may say, oh, what about traditional automakers? What about Volkswagen? What about Ford? What about GM? Because they get so much of the media attention. And what I will say is maybe. I mean, it's possible that traditional legacy automakers are going to get a little bit of a market share. I don't know what software they're going to have on it. Maybe NVIDIA. Like a lot of them are betting on NVIDIA. Like Mercedes, for example, is betting on NVIDIA. So it's entirely possible, maybe. But for that, they have to survive. And I hate to be so bold, but they have to survive for that. And I would just suggest that anybody, this is from Yahoo Finance, look at the balance sheets. I mean, these balance sheets are so terrible. They are bad balance sheets. Ford has $208 billion in liabilities, and GM has $178 billion in liabilities. And you know why? Do you know why they have so many liabilities? Because they do a lot of revenue finance. They have their own financial divisions, GM Financial, etc., and they do a lot of banking transactions. A bit like the reason GE failed. If you remember GE and Synchrony Financial, well, GM and Ford is doing kind of the same way. So it's financed cars, and so they have a financing risk. And I think they've been financing way too many of their own vehicles at way too high prices. All of these incentives, 0% down, blah, 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 that you see on TV, if you still have TV, all these incentives, they're backed by these giants. And one of my concern when I look at finance, and there was an article recently talking about repossession going up quite a bit on cars, people walking away from their cars. So what happens when people walk away from their cars and Ford or GM repossesses the car? What's the value of that car? Right, well, the value of that car is dropping so fast. And these companies, I believe, they're going to have to take markdowns on their debt and on their balance sheet because the cars that they repossess is going to be much lower, is going to be upside down, or because their borrowers are going to be upside down. And this could be this could create a real bankruptcy risk. This could create a real bankruptcy risk. I'm not interested in shorting stocks. I think shorting is stupid because all you can make is a 2x. So I'm not digging too much into it. But a few people have started to call this out. And I think it's important to call it out that these companies have so much debt backed by titles on vehicles that are going to depreciate extremely fast. And so what does that mean for Ford or GM? What if we get an exponential adoption in EVs? What is that going to mean for them? It's going to be very problematic. Also, I will also say, value of plant and equipment in their assets, right? It's lots of plant and equipment. Does it really still have the same value now that there is a huge monopolistic competitor? I don't think so. So maybe in accountings they'll never adjust that in their depreciation and stuff, but nonetheless to the finance people, to finance folks like us, it's going to matter a lot, right? I mean, you mark down your factory as an asset. You say it's a $5 billion factory, but really it's 200 million. Okay, and I suggest you look at what happened to Youngstown Motors and the value of that plant, that former GM plant, and actually what happened with that. Like these plants depreciate really, really fast in value. So I am very concerned. These are not modern plants. This is not modern equipment. These companies have so much debt. It's very concerning. A dollar of equity in Tesla is pristine. A dollar of equity in Ford or GM is not pristine. It is tainted by debt. And then look at that. Pension liabilities, 15 billion and 15 billion. That's going to hold them back. That's a lot too. I mean, nothing compared to how much debt they have, but pension liabilities, 15 billion each. I mean, as a reminder, Tesla only has 7 billion of long-term debt, and they have so much cash on balance sheet that I don't count it as debt. So again, I am concerned about the legacy automakers, not because I don't think, sure, there's lots of engineering reasons as to why I'm concerned, but the bigger concern that I have is their debt. And I think the Chinese automakers, lots of government support in China, even Warren Buffett support. Warren Buffett owns BYD, so I think the Chinese automakers are going to be in best shape. And this is akin to what happened in the 80s in the US when Honda, for example, and Toyota came, and people were saying, we're never going to buy Honda. And as soon as Honda and Toyotas came, they became the most popular cars. And so right now, most people are saying, I'm not going to buy a Chinese car. No way. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that works. And there's other things taken into account, like tariffs, for example. But even with the tariffs, they're still going to be cheaper. So we'll see. I'm not entirely discounting them, but I am concerned about the debt. Noting that another crazy possibility, and this may be the game they're playing, another possibility is they get another bailout. They could get a bailout. They wouldn't call it a bailout, maybe. I don't know. But I'm concerned. Moving on. What are some of the risks for Tesla? And I just want to say that as optimistic as I am about Tesla, I know that there's a few risks. But I just think that those risks are really, really integrated in the stock price. One of the risks is the key man risk, right? I mean, Elon Musk is still he is a flight risk. I mean, so right now, what is the discussion of the day? Well, people in California may not buy Teslas anymore. I don't think so. I think they'll keep buying Tesla. But people are saying, "Oh, Elon, I'm never gonna buy a car from you anymore because you said X, Y, or Z." So he's very outspoken CEO. So there is some key man risk for Elon Musk. I mean, no doubt. Um, but again, I think the company has had enough of a basis right now to keep going without him. If anything were to happen, um, but I would hate that, right? So that's a downside. You have to consider that. Then another one, Wall Street absolutely hates Tesla. I mean, how many times does the Tesla community have to tell people to not call software updates recalls? Like if you don't dig deeper into this, you would think there's recalls on Teslas every day, but they're not recalls. They're software updates, and software updates get passed as recalls. So again, the perception is slowly changing, but right now the market being so short term, I feel like it's back up at least within the past month. So that's a negative. And then I would put another big negative, in my opinion, is the government sentiment. There's been a shift from the U.S. government, at least, to be a little bit more anti-Tesla. The government recently has preferred GM and union-made cars. You may remember the whole "You led Mary," when GM had manufactured 26 cars in one quarter. President was praising Mary Barra, and Elon Musk, of course, made $300,000 of cars and no praise. So it's really there's a clear preference from the government for GM, and so in business, governments can have some influence, right? And so again, and this is contrary to the earlier days of Tesla. If you read the book that I recommend, talking about the earlier days of Tesla, Tesla benefited in the very early days quite a bit from government support. And maybe you could argue it makes sense that the government's trying to help incumbents right now because they are threatened. Maybe that's a reason. But there's been a shift in government support. Even though the IRA bill, for example, that was passed, well, you could argue it was mostly passed for GM and Ford, but they couldn't exclude Tesla from that bill. They just couldn't. That's the way the law is made, and so Tesla is most likely going to be the greatest benefactor of that bill. Anyways, there's lots of things that show that the government is has some sentiment against Tesla, or like Tesla not being invited to like a EV day at the White House. Anyways, doesn't really matter. I think it's a smaller risk. Governments come and go, they change all the time. I think this is a smaller risk. Tesla has strong staying power. In conclusion, I believe that if you adjust for risks, Tesla is one of the most compelling buys right now. As much as I love Snowflake or other companies. And the reason why I want to emphasize on risk adjusted is because cars, right, is something that we've all grown up with. We all have an understanding of that world. We all have an understanding of the dealership experience. And I could have put that they sell online. That's another big benefit for Tesla, which is they sell vehicles online as opposed to dealerships. I definitely should have put that in my analysis. I forgot. Um, but it's like we have a deep understanding of cars. I feel, at least I feel as an investor. That's why I feel the risk is much lower investing in consumer goods. That's one of the reasons, for example, why Warren Buffett invests in consumer products, because he feels like they're much easier to understand. And Tesla definitely is much easier to understand than a very high-end software company. And I think that's the reason why risk adjusted Tesla, if you adjust for risk, and by risk I mean the risk of ignorance, of the risk of omission. If you adjust for risk, Tesla is one of the biggest, most compelling buys right now. This company has a 10 to 15 year growth runway on vehicles alone, I believe. Again, not investment advice. None of this has been investment advice or will ever be investment advice. So not investment advice. Entertainment only. Edutainment, entertainment. Thank you so much for your support. I just had 100 subscribers and I am so happy about that. So I'm gonna celebrate tonight 100 subscribers. Very happy about that. I really hope that you liked my video. Hopefully you listen to it as a podcast or something, so it's not that boring. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And follow me on Twitter. I hope to post Twitter threads in the future, but for that I want to have a little bit of a following. So follow me on Twitter if you can. Thanks for subscribing and liking. Stay safe in your investments. Happy investing, and be positive. The future is very bright, and I really believe in Tesla. Last time, not investment advice. All right. See you in the next video. Bye.